Yes. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for attending today's seminar. Our special seminar today, Facing Life Challenges with Ease, with our special speaker, Elizabeth Padilla from San Francisco, California. So first of all, I want to thank Harmony House Meditation Center in Kuwait for organizing today's event with coordination with Bahrain Meditation Center. Thank you so much, Dr. Awatif, for translating today's event in Arabic. And also, I want to thank all Turkey participants because just now I know there is a lot of Turkey participants from Turkey. So thank you so much for your attendance. So first, let me introduce myself. I am your presenter today. My name is Khalid Isa from Kuwait. I am practicing meditation, Raja Yoga meditation with Harmony House Meditation Center for the past 5 to 6 years. And I really benefited a lot in my day-to-day life regarding all their methods, techniques that help me. Like today, our topic facing life challenges with ease. I learned a lot how to make things very simple and things like a mountain. I can make them like a cotton wool, very small, or a mustard seed. And I also learned that everything happened, every challenge, like for my benefit and for my growth, and to make me more powerful and strong. So, yeah, let me start to introduce our special speaker, Elizabeth Padilla. She's not just a speaker, she really, really is an angel. And thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us. So, I will give a brief introduction about our speaker. She's a meditation teacher and practitioner over 30 years with Raja Yoga. She lives in Inubuti Meditation Retreat Center in San Francisco, California. She manages a lot of program, retreat, activity, and held self-staff position at San Francisco Interfaith Council and served in the board of the Marine Interfaith Council. She trained as a facilitator in appreciative inquiring method and self-managing leadership. She designs and facilitates retreats, seminars, workshops for personal development. She also leads BK Environmental Initiative in US. She has been facilitating and promoting the Pachamama Alliances, and really it's very famous workshop. It's called Awakening the Dreamer. And also, this is very interesting. She's a gifted actor and a singer, trained in American Conservatory Theater, and is currently touring with one woman performance called Songs of My Soul. And recently, she has produced a CD called In a Simple Way. So we wish to hear some songs maybe at the end from our angel Elizabeth. And really, her song is very peaceful and touches the heart. A lot of peace, love, powerful, and belonging. And yes, if you want to ask any question, you can feel free to write them in the chat box. And yes, Elizabeth, you can feel free to start. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khalid. That was such a beautiful introduction. I feel very welcomed. I'm very pleased and happy to be amongst all of you. I really have good experiences in visiting the Middle East, and I feel that it's has a big heart. It's a very compassionate, big-hearted place. So I can't think of a better topic to share with you, heart to heart, is on facing life challenges with ease. Also want to thank Sister Aruna and the Harmony House team, Pavitra, and all for making this happen. I'm really pleased to be with you all. It's interesting. I actually left the theater professionally many decades ago, but I continue to use my practice in more creative ways, in a spiritual way. And this has brought my life a lot of ease. I feel more authentic, but also what comes with that. Perhaps you've noticed when you sit quietly and meditate, you get to know yourself more, and you get to know um, your triggers, your pluses and minuses, which I mean the positive points and negative points of our habits. And I really like this topic. I really embrace this topic of ease. And I asked myself, why is it when we look back at our life challenges? Have you thought of this? When you look back on your life, even think a moment for any challenges that you've gone through so far. And so why is it that when we look back, we actually are grateful for those challenges? We can even say to ourselves, I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for those challenges. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't have developed personally or even skillfully without those challenges. So I thought to myself, why is it that I have to look back on a situation to enjoy the benefits? And also even laugh sometimes, the humor of it all. When we say, remember when, and then we can get a little giggle over it. But I thought to myself, why not when we're going through it, in this moment, in this present scene, can I not have the same perspective, that same sort of big picture and ease? So I thought about it, and I brought together some of the points that really mean a lot to me and that I've exercised for myself. I'm going to share with you a few slides on a PowerPoint. And so what I did was I looked up on the dictionary just the word challenge, and it means a contest showing skill and to compete in a sport. So actually a challenge is something that helps us to develop, to become strong and skillful, and sports are usually very entertaining and fun. And ease means freedom from labor, from concern, anxiety, fear, doubt, that I'm at ease with myself, I'm at ease with this moment, I'm at ease with the future. So how can I do that? How can I face life challenges and maintain that perspective? And also to appreciate how these challenges actually strengthen me. I like the example of a butterfly when it is in its little chrysalis, in its little birthing chamber called a chrysalis, and it begins to push its way out. It's quite a struggle that it has to make, to push out its little wings and its legs and free itself from that chrysalis. And if I were to perhaps have these compassionate feelings and want to help pry it out of that chrysalis and open it for the butterfly, what would happen? I would actually cripple the butterfly. So actually this pushing of the walls of this chrysalis enable the fluids to rush through the wings and through the legs to strengthen, to give that butterfly vitality so that it can fly. So if you could imagine for yourself that everything that's happening to me right now and has happened and will happen is happening for me. It's designed for me to develop, to strengthen, to thrive. So let's take a look at each of these, the challenge and the ease, and let's understand a little bit better. When you think of a challenge, it's usually when whatever's normally happening, there's a shift. Like in relationships, people change. At work, situations change. Maybe someone gets an advance and I don't. Or I have to look for a new job. So work situations can change. Family situations can change. Community situations can change. Even now, we're experiencing global change, things that are happening around the world that affects our lives. So the challenge is what I call in the changes. Now, if we were to play a sports game such as soccer, we'd enjoy that. But if we were just playing by ourselves with the ball, it wouldn't be as fun. And also, my skills would develop if I had a team and then even an opponent. And so kicking the ball around, and instead, you would want the ball to come to you so you could show your skill. You would never ask, why did he throw me the ball? How come this challenge is coming to me? Why? How come? What? Right? And the same goes for, mental skill, sports such as chess. And, it's interesting. You make each move strategically, not wanting to miss a piece. But if you lose some pieces, gain some pieces, you're learning. And when you have the right perspective, you take the game lightly and you enjoy the game. But if we were to put ourselves on the board, let's say you were a piece in that game, you took it so seriously, and with each piece that was missing or taken from you, and you took it personally in that way, it would be an excruciating experience. But if I had in mind that I'm learning skills that will help me to develop my intellect in the sense of a chess game, and also I like horses, so I'm remembering horse races. If I were to do it alone in life, I wouldn't develop as much as if I were with other people. And it's not so much this competition, that's not what's being emphasized here, but that the enjoyment of being with others and learning from others and allowing myself to gain insights when those challenges arise. But it takes a little bit of insight, a little bit of quiet time to allow your innate wisdom to work for you. So on the game field of life, the skills could be similar, but they're much more subtle. I'm going to use my heart and my head to develop both of these skills. So now let's look at the flow. We want to go with the flow, but sometimes we hesitate. There's a fear or a doubt. It's like jumping off a cliff. But if we look at all around us, there's flow. Nothing stops. Can you think of anything that stands still? In this physical world, everything is flowing, everything is running in cycles, everything is moving. Seasons, days, hours. And here also, with our own bodies, we have a cardiovascular system, we have a respiratory system. And if these are blocked, if there's any resistance or blockage in any of these physical systems, I'll experience pain, won't I? So what I want to do, or any physician, and I know Awatif, she's a physician, I believe she's translating today, and she would know that her job is to keep everything flowing, in her patients, and what is it that's creating a blockage? And it would be that, the pain is being caused by either inflammation or blockage. And the same goes with our thought processes, with our mind, and our feelings, our attitudes, and our perspectives, how we see ourselves, how we see the world, how we see our relationships. And they're all colored by our thought process. But if there's any fear, if there's any resistance or resentment, if I'm harboring anything, it creates a blockage. And so this would be what we would come to know in our quiet time, to think about things and what is it that will help flow in our thoughts, feelings, and our perspectives. And now we come to a more subtle aspect. And so the soul is that spiritual presence. And this spiritual presence is unlimited. It's what connects you and I as a global family, a family of souls. And our heart beats to these experiences of love, joy, peace, truth, wisdom, clarity, innocence. We all value these qualities because we actually, as a soul, are those qualities. Now, on this level, what would block us is this resistance to change. And this is what happens. We will have this, tug of war, or this push and pull, where we resist change, when actually the first step is to accept and allow. And this is an old adage, what I resist will persist, what I fight, I strengthen, and what I go against, I become. That's a tough one, I know, but it's so true. When you think about things that, even you advocate for or you go against, I have to be very careful that I don't take on those same qualities. I have a little example. When you resist or something, you would say, oh, I can't deal with this. I can't stand people who have ego. And if you fight, and you question that person's integrity and say, you have so much ego, what would happen? They would defend themselves, and then you would prove your point, and it would escalate, right? You would just strengthen that blockage. And when you go against and you try to advocate against that person who has ego, did you see how much ego they have? What happens to your face when you're describing someone who has a lot of ego or anger? Or perhaps someone is needy. And you can even think in history, famous people who've advocated against something, and then their regime morphed into the very thing that they were against. So to kind of look at that it's there. The game is there, the players are there, and how can I begin to develop my skill with ease and flow? And actually, that's the combination, to accept the challenge, but how to embrace it with a perspective, a proper perspective. And I would say there is a process of acceptance, but let's look at all the players on the game field. Oh, before I do that, I want to share one little story that illustrates this resistance and blockage. And you may have heard this story. It's about a king who asked his men to put a huge boulder in front of the main gate to the kingdom. And in order to get around it, you had to slide around to get to the main entrance. But the king had his men place it right there, and the king hid himself in the bushes because he wanted to see what his kingdom was made of. He wanted to see the integrity of his kingdom. And so he waited, and he saw some of his courtiers and advisors walk along the path, and they see this big boulder, and they go, "Oh God, is this big boulder still here?" And they complained about the king and how he doesn't do anything. And the king heard this, and he was shocked. "Oh, wow, this is how my people think of me." He goes, "Will anyone in my kingdom have any care in the world to move this boulder so that others can pass? Does anyone have integrity?" And then this peasant comes with his sheep and some vegetables. He has a load of vegetables, and he sees this big boulder here, and he's thinking, "Wow, this big boulder's here in the way, and it really shouldn't be in the way of the king, and of everyone. This really doesn't serve the kingdom." And he tried to push it and move it off the path, and he couldn't do it. So he tried to get some help, and he went to some of his peasant friends, and he asked some of the guards, and no one would help him. And so he thought of a way of creating a fulcrum with his staff and another rock, and he could shimmy the stone and roll it off the road. And underneath that rock was a purse full of gold and a little note in it. And it was from the king. And he said that if anyone moves this stone, this gold is yours. And of course, he was greeted by the king and embraced by the king and had a high standing in his eyes. And this story is actually about the self and our conscience. And that the king is that master in ourselves. And am I able to follow through? Do I have that courage, to move those big stones in my life and face? So it's not so much, in that resisting it. The blockage is there. It just creates complaints. It just festers and becomes worse and worse. But if I have that power to face and to move along, then it's a skill I develop. I'm not resisting. I am actually doing something. I'm being proactive. So now let's again look at the players that we have in the game of life. Pretty simple. I have myself, and this is talking about the spiritual self, that conscient presence, that I am a spiritual being, I'm a soul, and that I have this physical body. And I'm born into relationships. I'm born into this country or wherever I live in the community. And I adopt possessions. And in this field of cause and effect, the game of life, situations are created. And so this is the playing field. But let's look at these for a moment. And if you look at these, the situations, possessions, your money, commodities, your car, your house, your relationships at work, your family, and then your body, and even your you know, the type of body you have and what that means to you and to others. And then when you come down to the self is eternal. The soul is forever. And everything else changes. The body changes. People change. Situations change. And of course, houses break down. Cars need to be replaced. Everything in this physical world meets with changes. It's part of life. But the constant is this aspect that we call the soul. And so the body is made of elements, and of course, the body will crave these elements. It needs the minerals and proteins and water. Everything that it's made of, the body will crave that to sustain it. So what is the soul made of? What is it that the soul, that poets write about? And that is the love, bliss, the innocence, the peace, and the power of wisdom. This is what the soul ponders whilst being in this physical world. And we want to get to know ourselves more. And meditation, reflection, quiet time, and prayer, these all help me to develop that aspect of myself. Actually, it is myself. And these are on a continuum. All these qualities are eternal qualities. They survive any kind of cycles in time, in history, in workplace. We come back. That integrity of the spirit returns. And so to just know these players, that there are these aspects that are changing, but there is a stabilizing factor, and it's connected with the flow. You would not think what's stabilizing is what's a flow. It's what is. It's alive. Think of it, I am peace. I am love. I am joy. And I'm here to express that in the world and then reciprocate that and receive that. But to know that there are changes and they're there to help me to be more skillful, to be stronger, to strengthen myself. So now we come to this sweet story. And this has to do with our perspectives in life. And this elderly teacher thought, I've got to really do something different with my class. I just feel like, they're not really getting the depths and learning something that is of value. So something that really hits home. And so what he did, before the students came into the classroom, he put a pink dot in the middle of a piece of paper, okay? And then he put that piece of paper with the pink dot face down on each of the students' desk. And so the students come into the classroom, and he says, don't turn the paper over, we're going to have an exam. And they kind of go, oh, okay, a surprise exam. And he goes, now, what I want you to do before you turn that paper over, I want you to know that you're going to create an essay about what you see on that paper. And then afterwards, you hand in the paper, and I'm going to read them to the class. So he said, ready, get set, go. They turned over the piece of paper, and everybody started writing about what they saw. And then they handed in the paper to the teacher, and the teacher read each one to the class. And each student, with as much skill and intelligence that each child of these young students had, they wrote about what they saw, and they all spoke about the pink dot. What it represented, what it meant, why is this dot in the middle of my page, to the obstacles in life, the pebble in the way. They just went on about that dot in the middle of the page. And so the teacher stopped for a moment after he read the last entry, and he said, not one of you wrote about all that open space. Each one was fixated on the dot in the middle of the page. And it's like that in life, isn't it? If you were to present a project, or at work, or sing a song in front of some friends, and they all gave you a compliment except for one person gave you a criticism, which of the 20 comments would you remember? The 19 compliments or the one criticism? You'd probably be thinking about that one point. Well, gosh, I thought I sang pretty good, or I thought my project was great, and then you spend your whole day fixating on that as the main issue. And so we have so much to be thankful for. And the teacher explained this to the students, hoping that, the message would come across that you have your whole life in front of you. There's so much to be grateful for, so much that's available to us right now that we have. We have so much. Yet we focus on these small issues, these things that come up. And of course, as time passes, we'll get the proper perspective. But in the moment, how can I develop that skill? Will I really see how much opportunity is there before me? How much open space is around me? How much I have? And even how much I have as a person, as an individual, not just on a physical level. So now it's interesting too. I'm not ready to go here yet, but let me stop sharing for a minute because I want to just explain. I think what it is that we get, or I do anyway, fixated on wanting to change the other person. I feel obligated to help that person. And so not only do I need to learn how to accept the other, but also that perhaps this person has come to teach me something, to learn a lesson in life. And I approach those situations in this way. Whatever relationships I have, And of course, any of them and all of them will probably challenge you one day or another. And what gifts am I going to learn? What gifts am I going to receive and gain from this particular relationship? And by doing this, I have been able to get along with many people. I don't want to say with everybody because somehow I feel it like challenges my fate. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll just say that yes, I can get along with anyone. And those that challenge me the most are the ones who are my friends. They're the ones who are really going to help me to become the better person that I want to be. Especially if they irritate me, there must be some truth. There must be something that I need to learn from that situation. It may not be that I have the same defect or whatever that let's say they're an angry person, or they get upset easily, and it's not pleasant to be around. But to the degree that it irritates me, I've come to learn that there's something for me to shift and to change, not for them to change. I once had this employer many years ago. I worked for this doctor, and he was, like head of his expertise, and he would speak around the world about, his expertise in what he did. And he was well known and wrote many books. And somehow I got to be in his office. And he had this big booming voice. And anytime I would misspell someone's name, he would point it out to me. And he would get calls from people from around the world, and they would have very interesting names. And I said, he can't really be wanting to pick at me on misspelling these names. And so I thought, you know what? I'm so tense when I'm around him and when I hear his voice. I need to change. So I'm going to focus, and I'm going to do this experiment and see only the good in him. I'm going to send him through that thick coconut shell that he's buried himself in. I'm going to find that sweet milk in the middle. And as days went by, I began to notice when he would be laughing with the patients, or he would say something really kind with someone, and I would focus. And I found that from this grizzly bear that he was actually the sweetest little teddy bear. And after about a year, he had called me into his office. Now, this is a big, like, penthouse office with silk wallpaper. You could see the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bay Bridge from his office. And it could be intimidating, but I had done this practice. And I thought, oh no, maybe I've done something wrong, right? So I go into his office, and he says, Elizabeth, so on and so forth. And he was just talking about mundane things that needed to be done. And I went, oh, okay, phew. And then he asked me a question, and then I answered. And then he asked me another question, and then I gave a philosophical answer. And then he had a philosophical reply. And then we started going into this really beautiful conversation, and then he stopped. As if, wait a minute, this isn't in the script. And so, he said, Elizabeth, I've never met anyone quite like you. And from then on, our relationship shifted. And when I left that office, he had tears welling up in his eyes. It was the sweetest thing. I would have never thought. But what I did was, I didn't go in the ring, in the arena, to change this soul. I knew that I had to change. And what happens is that I have a perspective. The soul has different perspectives, how we see the world, how we see ourselves. And so once I've labeled someone, they're going to continue to react to me in that same way because I have that vision. If I treat them like a mean boss and they reply and I'll I will reply, he will also back and forth. Let's say he'll say, how come you've misspelled it? I go, and if I, come back with fear, he's going to put a defense. He doesn't realize what a big bear he is, actually. And underneath, he's just this sweet little teddy bear. And so in his reality, he's thinking the world doesn't understand him. But he's had to create this protective shield. Of course, I don't go into the psychology of it. It was to see the good in this soul so that I wouldn't be tense around him. And I had no idea that it would unfold into this lovely work relationship of trust. So what I've done is I created this little 5-step process, something that you can take home with you and work on and practice for yourself, keeping in mind this game of change and how to stay with the flow. So here we go. Let me just share this last slide with you. Somehow the acronym came out Allah, and I think it's just perfect. I hope that's okay. But it's a lovely 5-step process. And the first step is to accept and detach. It's almost like a meditation. And since we were talking about the game of life, what if we were to sit with that supreme being, the divine, as our coach, as our guide, and to see everything as benefit, that life isn't happening at me. What if life was happening for me? And so that first step is to accept, to acknowledge, and to stand back off the playing field and to have a conversation with that supreme coach, with the divine. And the next, begin to ask questions, have a conversation with yourself or with this divine presence, which is actually upping, your level of integrity, your that higher vibrational frequency, that value of whatever it is that I might be looking at or learning with it. It becomes like a glass mirror when I allow that divine company in my thoughts and detach from a situation that might be happening for me. You can even think of one that's happening for you right now. What is it that I want to learn about myself, about the situation or the other? But it really comes down to, what is it that I need? And discern what that is. And it helps to even ask that question, what does this person need? Like in this sense of Dr. Cohen, and he felt vulnerable, so he had to create this wall. And everybody just needs that respect and love. And so to keep that in mind, that everybody is made of love, bliss, purity, peace, and wisdom. And if I acknowledge that in the other person and I maintain that vision, they may feel safe enough to meet you there. And also, I will develop that in myself. And so I like this next step all onto its own, love. And this to me is the baseline for flow, because it means that it's like compassion on a really spiritual level, that sending good wishes to people that disturb me, that's quite a challenge. And I can say, even for myself, it's still a challenge, but the benefits from that are awesome. It's as if, like being the butterfly, by pushing against that prejudice that I thought was protecting me from that person, but actually it becomes a crippling factor. And by sending good wishes and knowing that they're playing their part according to their perspective, and whatever wounds or whatever issues that they're in their game of life that they're challenged with, but let me invest in their goodness. Let me see their divine qualities, those eternal constants that are within the other. And you will see that your relationship with that person will improve, or at least, if anything, I will maintain integrity to my innate qualities. I will remain loveful, peaceful, and joyful. And of course, take the leap. We often think that the love is from outside of us, that, that it's, that it's what you're supposed to give me, or what the world is supposed to give me happiness. But on this journey, I realized that these are qualities that I already have. And if I want abundance, then I need to allow those qualities to flow, to love anyway, to give regard anyway, and to appreciate and have gratitude for all that open space. And of course, I have no choice but to evolve, because that frequency, that the thought patterns will be of a higher quality, which makes for an easier way of keeping that company of the divine. So having that supreme coach with me in the game of life, and of course the fruit of that, the treasures, there's your harvest. And even yesterday I had a challenge, and it was almost ironic. It was like as if this talk today, was a gift for me, in putting this together. And so I used my 5 steps, and it was a wonderful experience. It was just wonderful. And it also taught me to trust that everything is happening for a reason. Even though we can understand the concepts and I share them with you and they sound really good, but there's nothing like trying it, putting it to the test, and then you get, the response. You get the harmony, you get the cooperation. And also what's really beautiful is when that difficult person trusts you. For me, that is the highlight of a spiritual life. So let's have a meditation. I guess we have time for a short meditation, do we? Yeah? Okay. So I might just be motivated to come into song, but stay with the meditation. Stay with that experience of being a soul in the flow of life. So take a nice deep breath in. And just accept the environment, the body. Let go of any tension, whether it's physical or mental. Just totally relax. And imagine yourself sitting at the bank of a river. It's a warm day, and there's a cool breeze. and you're enjoying this flow of water. You can smell the earth, and you love the sound of the water as it gently drifts by. And you just go with that flow of the river. And you notice there's a rubber raft. And of course, it invites you to just jump into that raft and surrender to the flow of that gentle river. I trust that the river will guide the raft around each bend and corner, avoiding any stones or obstacles. And I lean back on that raft, resting my head on the edge of the raft. I relax and let go. And the raft passes under a grove of trees. And the light dances through the leaves onto my face. And then soon, the raft slows down and I find myself in the middle of a beautiful lake. A whole view, a whole vista opens up for me. And I see trees and mountains. I see the beauty that's around me. And I take a look over the edge of the lake. And the lake is totally still. And I see my own reflection. My eyes are filled with kindness and compassion. And I notice a beautiful gem at the bottom of the lake. As I see my own reflection, I take notice of something at the bottom of the lake that's reflecting the light of the sun. And if by magic I stretch my arm out to reach that precious stone, and I grab hold of this stone, and as I begin to emerge it from the water, the whole lake lights up in brilliant colors, where there are many other precious stones. And I emerge the stone, and the atmosphere is filled with light. And I examine the beauty and the luster of this precious gem. And I notice that on one side there's an inscription of a word intended for me. What does that stone say? May I always live a life of love, radiate God's beauty below, inside, above. I will open up my heart each day anew for the love of family, love of life, and the love of you. This is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings, my friends. May I always walk the path of peace. May the words salam ring out for our unity to increase. May every word I speak be strong and true. I will always see the face of God in the face of you. This is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings, my friends. And now you are committed to service. You can change the world through your two hands, with your heart and soul. Yes, you understand. May we always shine our inner light with the colors of the rainbow rising up to brilliant white. And no matter where our choices lead us to, there will always be a place inside our hearts for you. This is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings, my friends. And now we are committed to service. We can change the world through heart to hands, with our heart and soul. Yes, we understand. When I think of mountains caressed by oceans blue, I will see the sacred highland as a part of me and you. And like the stars that warm the darkest night, We will always fill our world with our love, our life, our light. This is the beginning, not the end, of blessings upon blessings, blessings upon blessings, blessings upon blessings, my friends. Om Shanti. Salam.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for this angelic voice. And really, the words touching from the heart to heart. We feel a lot of love, and I see many, many thanks and loves and hearts in the chat box. No one wants to ask any question, they send just their love. I think it's your energy. And really, really, I enjoy it. I have a lot of points when you say be grateful. Just don't just look back at your challenges and laugh at them. Uh, Same perspective. You have to see them now when there is a challenge and laugh at that challenge, not to wait till this end. And the butterfly example was so amazing. You are our butterfly today. And also, I love when you say accept the challenge and embrace it, not just accept it, embrace it. And we need to change, not to wait for situation to changes. And I love Allah. Allah is first accept, learn, love Allah, and harvest all the treasure. And really, this one question like how to face life challenges with singing, as you are a singer with song.
Oh, this must be a singer who asked this question. All the more reason to sing. I think whatever our skills, whatever our expertise or talent is, when we serve with that skill, we will, I would say that's what gives us the return. And of course, flow, when you do it without that expectation. I mean, many opportunities have been given to this soul to sing, and I would have never thought that would happen. And they weren't planned. The opportunities that came were not what I designed or planned. It was just put in my lap. I know when I made that decision to leave the theater, and it wasn't, I just made that decision that it just, the way that the theater life is just did not resonate with me. And that was before I went on a spiritual path. I just said, this isn't me. In the world, you have to sell your soul to be an artist. I said, I'm sorry. I can't do this. And this was a real big wake up, a big challenge for this soul. So whoever asked this question, I totally get it. I totally understand. But just know that if it feels chaotic, just know that something is being born, something new and exciting. And just to listen, nurture it like a newborn, and it will come to you. And just let it flow. Continue to sing, to whatever your art form is or skill set is, to use it to serve, and you will get the return on that. So I
And
hope.
yeah, thank you for this really very clear answer. And there is another question when you say to face the life challenge with head and heart. So how to face it with our heart?
Well, I think the concepts help you to adjust intellectually into understanding. But that's what helps the heart surrender. They have to work together. Sometimes you can call it master and child. And it's our conscience, it knows. But we also need our innocence, which I often say in English, inner sense. There's a wisdom of the heart. It's an intuitive intelligence, instinctive. And it doesn't mean that you leave yourself at prey to others, but it's that you are willing to be vulnerable, to be open. And in order to do that, you have to feel worthy. You have to feel worthy that I am loved, that God loves me, and that I'm a loving and lovable presence. And it's really trusting in that all on its own. And it will teach you that love is real. It will teach you that it's an eternal, innate quality, and it's powerful. It moves mountains, right?
And also we have this last question from Samir. He said there are people who are selfish and bad and greedy. How can you love them and greet them?
It's really for my benefit. And I think that some of the lessons I've learned in being compassionate and loving is to kind of ask the question, why are they greedy? And why are they making the choices? And it's not so much an open why, like, how crazy is this? It's more of, what is it that they really need? They really need security and love. Usually greediness, I find, when people measure their worth by how much they have, it's really lonely because it's never satisfied. And so that I will envision that person in this light of love, that they are loved, that they are safe, that they are in a really safe place. They're surrounded by God's light. And to see them that way, to see them how God would see them, that's even interesting perspective to play with. I will find I'll be much easier. And no matter what their symptoms, just look at, if you were a doctor and someone had these symptoms of greed and anger, I don't want to catch the disease, right? So I need to remain loving. That's my protection. But also, I'm not going to judge them because they have a disease, but it just so happens to be a spiritual one. And that's the old way of doing things, of cutting them off. But by doing that, I cut my own flow off. I'm actually harming myself, crippling myself. And so having compassion for those that irritate me, that drive me nuts, that, it allows me to go beyond. And it's something that you have to really try for yourself. Do it baby steps with some, maybe not a big one at first, but I find I haven't seen it not work for me. It's not that I can change that person, but I will see them in a different light, and that trigger, I call it a trigger, I won't respond in that way. And if I do, a negative word might come out, then I'll go, oh, okay, I still have some work to do. But not to be hard on myself. That's also, an area to be compassionate with the self. And go, okay, I see, I can see. Otherwise, if I'm hard on myself, I will become blind. If I'm difficult with myself, I will hide it from myself. And this is why there's this, I would say, an epidemic of blindness, of being able to see how we are in the world, how we interact, how we respond, how we perceive the world. Is we don't see the other. We don't listen to each other. And so I have to begin with myself to listen to what I need and just identify what they really need. Just identify, and see them having abundance, and just watch the shift. Watch what will happen, how your heart will open up. It won't close. And your protection is that trust and faith with the flow of life, that abundance of life. And of course, God's company.
Also, we have this last question, maybe in short, you can answer about how we face the challenge of coronavirus. Should we just ignore it and not do anything about it, or you have some tips?
Okay, that's a very good question, because there are physical challenges, that we also, have to deal with. This is all incorporated within it. It doesn't mean that you don't take precautions. I think what this whole effort about being in ease, the challenges will come, and now we're facing together global challenge. So I look at what brings us together. I look at how it connects us as a global family of concern. So those are like the positives to really look at what's the growth here, and that helps. But yes, I have to take the precautions. I have to do what's necessary, but not to stress. The fear will block the energy. I do what I need to do to keep my family safe, to keep me safe, and just we will ride this wave together. But it's definitely, I would say, yes, do something about it, and also incorporate what's the lesson to be learned here, and how I can still be with the flow and the ease. That's a short answer. I would have to go deep, because that's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Also, we just want to announce that 31st of May, we have a self-mastery course with Bahrain Meditation Center. Maybe Bavitra or can put it in the screen. Maybe Brother Deepak, you can put it in the screen. Yes, this is in Arabic. It will be in Arabic, starting from 31st of May. Self-mastery. I benefited a lot from this course, so please, if anyone feels to register, it's a free course, and you can visit the website on the screen. Yes, thank you. And yes, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your today jewels of knowledge. We love them so much, and for the song you think it really touched my heart and make my mind dances. And thank you so much. And it's really very nice seminar and event. We really enjoy it. Thank you so much, and thank for everyone and from Turkey, Bahrain, Kuwait, and all Middle East. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Khalid and Harmony House. Thank you.
Yes, have a good night. Bye bye.
Good night.